right, everybody. My name is Stephen Cooley with Mortgage Advisor Tools. I am here with Brett Brumley at Lender Toolkit and Lindsey Kuhnle from VanDyk Mortgage. How are you folks doing today?
I am fantastic and excited to be here with both of you.
So
Very
good, I can't stand it, and I always love talking about tech with you guys. So,
can't stand it, he says.
right.
Good stuff. Well, good. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to do some chatting about mortgage automation, mortgage technology, maybe the market as a whole. So, real excited to get into this. But there's actually in mortgage advisor tools, we've actually had quite a movement of mortgage automation discussions. With lenders, with technology companies, new technologies coming out. And I think it's tough for lenders because there's not like um, a button they can click to find, how to exactly automate and what vendors to look for and what not. But I mean, Lindsey, in where you guys come from, I mean, what factors play into your evaluation of, developing mortgage automation, and what are you looking for in that vein?
Yeah, around here, one of the big factors that, when we brought Lender Toolkit on board with us, some of the important things were we were looking at, errors that were happening. The simplest of errors cause the biggest costs at times. And so not only that, but coming out of 2020 and 2021, we couldn't hire on enough people to do the job at hand. And so now we're able to do more essentially with less people, which if we ever see a 2020 again, I have a better grasp on us being able to keep up a little bit more than trying to hire mass people in that kind of environment.
One of the first stories I was told by an executive when I started in the business like 20 something years ago, he sat me down and he said, Brett, you need to understand this business is cyclical, right? It's going to go up and it's going to go down. It's like a roller coaster. And I've heard that message from lenders and vendors for years. To be honest, it's the driving force of why I started Lender Toolkit. Is I heard that message and went, "That's stupid. That's awful. Why is it like that? Why is it you hire a bunch of people and fire a bunch of people and hire, by the time they get onboarded and know what they're doing, you're either overwhelmed or you're trending back down." So I started Lender Toolkit to try to break that cycle. It's a huge task, and we take a bit at a time as much as we can. But it was around what you said is if can you use technology to bridge the gap between the low times compared to the absolute high times? If you have technology, it's not cyclical, it's more of like a sliding scale that might have dips and peaks. But technology, I think, can bridge the gap with people. And it's so important. And,
No, that's all. I mean, with that, you know, when you implemented Lender Toolkit, you mentioned that you had cost savings, that it did impact the business. I mean, how significant was it? I mean, there's a lot of different stats around how mortgage or mortgage technology ROI, how it's not necessarily they're not seeing like a lower cost per funded loan. But I mean, what has your experience been like? How significant has that like reduction been for you guys?
It honestly has been huge. I took a step back out of management in 2021 to take a year off after having a baby during COVID. And when I came back to VanDyk in 2022, it was one of the first things that they gave to me and said, here's AI Underwriter. We want you to work with Lender Toolkit and see what we can do with it. In those first 12 months that we were working on building out AI Underwriter to work for us, we were experiencing a heavy mass load coming in from investors who finally had time to audit files and go through files. And there were so many repurchases that were coming our way over, income calculation, or you missed this piece of documentation. Homebuyer education certs on home ready and home passable loans. We know that that's something you have to have
Right.
for those most generally. And missing that in a file causes a repurchase or an unsellable loan, which adds up to tens of thousands of dollars. So with that, that's where we really dove into AI Underwriter is to look at not just how we could create this space for our underwriters, but prevent issues on the backside. And I think that that's probably the greatest savings that we've seen is less repurchases, less errors, less unsellable loans.
Got it. I love that you brought up AI Underwriter because I mean it's probably been one of the most polarizing technologies that's entered our space in the last 5 years, I would say. How have you dealt with adoption? I mean, obviously, the mortgage industry is renowned for our slow adoption of technology. How do you implement this, get your folks excited about it, get them to trust it, right? That's a big one too, especially in underwriting and processing. What's that process look like?
I always joke like the industry we work in, that the only consistent thing is change. You throw change at us and we're like, whoa, hold on. I I can't do with this. I can't do
Yeah,
change.
yeah,
You hear the term AI underwriter and you immediately think of underwriting. And so with that, we knew that our underwriting team had to be the first buy-in. So we put it in their hands first. And of course, there was some hesitancy. There is so much pushback with saying AI and technology because immediately they think, am I going to have a job tomorrow or a week from now or a month from now? Or is technology going to replace me? So we really had to press the concept that we weren't looking to replace people, we were looking to enhance people. And once we had our underwriting teams buy in, we spent about 30 days doing that, getting them to utilize AI Underwriter. Some of the funny things that we saw during that time was how much, even myself, I'm an underwriter. That's where I started. Um, Even I was over conditioning loans. You're like, why didn't AI Underwriter add this condition? And then you go look up the handbook and you're like, oh, because it changed and I don't need that anymore.
right.
And it's like, okay, old dogs can learn new tricks. And once we had our underwriters buy in, then we started to press it and push it out to our processors and said, hey, we want you to run this before you submit the file into underwriting because this is going to help you set up the file appropriately. So you're not submitting too much or not enough into our underwriting teams. And then beyond that, we have been able to take it and, like I said before, utilize it in our post-closing files. We had a Texas cash out refinance that we closed with an appraisal waiver. If you've ever done a Texas cash out refinance, appraisal waivers are not acceptable for that. That was a rule that was a little too big for me. So I called my friend Joe at Lender Toolkit and said, hey, I have a file. And he said, perfect. I've been waiting for one of these. Let me help you build out this rule. And I love that even though we're one company as a lender, right? We work with Lender Toolkit and they have mortgage experience. So it's not like we're just, no offense for anybody on this call who's just a tech guy. But we're not dealing with just tech people. We're dealing with tech people who understand the industry. And that is so important. And so we are able, as one lender, to help another lender by bringing those issues to the table. And I hope other lenders out there who are also utilizing some of these AI tools with Lender Toolkit are also bringing it back to the table and saying, hey, help us build this because that's only going to help somebody else in the game.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
I do have my NMLS number, so
I love
you're in
it.
the clear. You're in the clear.
That
Brett, what's
it's a
your
really good
experience?
point. Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was say it's a good point that you brought up. You know, I believe that in the future, you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced with people that know how to use AI and use those tools of the company, whether it's a lender with a really good tech stack or strategy, or individual usage of the tools. Like you'll definitely be surpassed. The speed in which you can work as a person just using something as rudimentary as a chat bot with AI is mind blowing. I've got stories after stories after stories of things that I do in my day to day that speed me up and make me more effective. Lender Toolkit as a whole, like the logo you can see behind us, kind of looks like Tetris pieces. It was designed to say we want to bring people, the little person with the head over it, and parts and pieces and bring them together. If you don't have that cohesion between technology and people, it's really difficult to do something powerful and impactful, like change the way that you underwrite a loan. And part of that equation has to be people. You said adoption had to start with underwriting. I completely agree. If your underwriting team doesn't trust the solution, it's really hard to impact change. So we have to have that mortgage expertise, which our team has in spades, meets together with great technology and then amazing customers that know their business as well. And then we can do it together and make it better. And whether it's multiple lenders working together to make the product and the overall market better, or individual contributions, from one, it doesn't matter. We want to work together to do this better.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, the big analogy that's always given is if I want to buy $100,000 car right now, I can go down the street and, they can, they'll grab my documents, the same documents that I would use for a mortgage, and I could have that car within, 3, 4 hours, right? And, so for your standard W-2 loan, many of these files are straightforward. The person's been working there long enough, and they have the same documents, and you're able to pull them, and they're qualified. And so, how is the human element, shifting, and and we're talking about 100% automation. Do we see that ever, kind of coming to fruition?
I mean, if it directed at me, I don't think you're ever going to get 100% automation. ICE, Ellie Mae, well, they were Ellie Mae at the time, ICE now, got up on stage at their experience and said that we want high touch and high technology. You have to have great technology. This is a business, this is a world that's driven by this is 3 inches from my head, and this is what people expect. The Amazon experience, check it, put it in your cart, check out, and be done with it. If you're not accepting that that's the reality we live in, you're already too late and too slow. So you have to have high technology. But in that, you have to have good people and good touches. You've got exceptions that the technology is not capable of managing yet or not mature enough to do, or there's not enough ROI for it to do. You have to have people and processes in place to supplement the technology, or it doesn't work. You can't have one over another.
What do you think, Lindsay?
I agree with that. I also feel like, the Fannie Mae and the Freddie Mac, I feel like they have been headed in a direction for a long time of becoming more automatic than necessarily needing a human element. But you're still going to have those hard government loans. You're still going to have those FHA manual underwrites, those VA manual underwrites. You've got your USDA GUS system that's out here in another world, that's not integrated into these LOS systems that we're utilizing. You have to have people for those. But you still are able to combine some of that technology with those people and create that Tetris and bring it all together to really make the process work.
Yeah. No.
If I can take it a step further, though, you brought up like a general W-2 borrower, like great credit. That is where technology can shine. So the reason mortgages take a long time isn't necessarily because of the complexity. It's by the time the loan officer talks to the borrower takes 2 or 3 days to get the documentation to you. Take another couple days to get disclosures. Your processor starts reviewing everything, collecting the information, getting their order outs done, back and forth, emailing the loan officer. That's 7, 8 days right there immediately, right? Then the processor does their absolute best to perfect the loan. We know they're not perfect. They're learning to be underwriters, but they're still, learning. They send it to an underwriter. Underwriter reviews it and goes, wow, you forgot all of this stuff. Go back and get it from the borrower. Now that cycle repeats. Look, I'm at 20 days right away. Our average turn time is 45 days. So in a perfect file, you could still take 20 days. Well, how do you solve that problem? You focus all your tech energy on the 60 to 80% of loans that are clean, don't need a lot of work, and you get those automated as much as you possibly can, and then you put it on the manufacturing line and let it move forward. What our lenders often do is they try to focus in on that 10 or 20%, the crazy fringe cases that they themselves are frustrated and aggravated with. And they're like, your technology has to solve that. We'll take that challenge on and we'll solve it. But while you're focusing on those, you're forgetting about the 80% of loans that could breeze through with no issue whatsoever. Focus on that first, then pivot to the crazy weird exceptions, which the tech can handle too. But the ROI is a little lower because it's weird exceptions.
And we've had this conversation actually at VanDyk, how do we sell that FOMO, that fear of missing out? How do we market that we're the company that can get a loan clear to close in 10 days? I'm like, well, we do that every day, But at the end of the day, you're still going to have the borrowers who go on vacation, while they're under contract to purchase a loan. You're still going to have the employers who don't respond in a timely manner with that written VOE that you're looking for with the income. You're still going to have those things that we have no control over inside of our company, regardless of technology or not, that is going to cause those delays at times.
Yeah, they say in sales, they say time kills deals, right? So if whatever the reason, the borrower goes on vacation or somehow they have a European vacation that's completely planned, they got to leave tomorrow, they have no cell phone service. When that inevitably happens right before the purchase contract expires, you've got to take action. And so technology can help you do that faster and immediately, or at least keep you on track. So absolutely.
Well, Lindsey, is there any technology that you would like to see, implemented, or a certain problem in particular that you'd like to see technology solve in the business right now?
Yes, and I don't know how much I'm supposed to say here. I believe it's coming our way soon. I have heard rumor that Lender Toolkit is working on Prism assets, and you know, in the world that we live in today, there's affirm debts and there's afterpays and Klarna and all of those things that don't show up on a credit report. And you get these bank statements, and all of a sudden, you're reviewing the bank statements for large deposits. We're accustomed to looking for that, and some undisclosed debts, but oftentimes those are overlooked. And they also are a deal killer on the backside. You clear to close out loan, they audit the file and they're like, "Hey, I need to ask about this debt, this debt, this debt that's on the bank statements, and your DTI is now through the roof." So I'm excited to where AI is going to start looking at assets a little bit for us to call out those things, the insufficient funds, the large deposits, and those debts that make loan officers and underwriters and processors crazy.
Yeah. Love
Well,
it. Yeah, we're really excited about that product. We've handled assets before in AI Underwriter, rebranded to Prism Clear, for a long time. Certainly we call out those conditions, but they're heavily dependent on what you enter into the loan or what's on the 1003 or maybe from an ancillary source. So us really focusing on the bank statements and some of the digital data we collect from, vendors like Plaid and a lot of others that are doing it, is going to be a lot more impactful. And so I'm happy to help you with that and excited to see what you think about it.
very cool. Well, Brett, what else do you have coming up here, technology, product wise?
That's one thing I think that I would like to convey to all of our lender partners or anyone that's out there listening is that when you find a partner that you can trust and you work with, well, lean into them heavily. I spend millions of dollars per year on building technology. Lenders don't have that kind of budget on an R&D budget to kind of
Right.
play, but we do. And so we have to be pushing the envelope and building things that we think our customers want. And in that allows us to be a true partner. You can bring ideas and suggestions to us, and we'll hopefully take that advice and build it. We're playing a lot in the AI space that is a buzzword. Let's just call it out. There's a lot of generative AI. Help me write an email. Help me generate this. Maybe even help me analyze this information. We're not at the point, regulatorily speaking, to let AI like make the decisions for us. That's still kind of a faux pas a little bit. The agencies are trying to issue some guidance, but we're not quite there yet. But we have to be building in that space. We have to have large language models really analyze huge data sets and try to pick out patterns for when a loan would be qualified versus maybe, if then and rule statements based on a guideline or a set of fields. We have to be more innovative in ways to do that. So we're trying to deploy some of our chatbots throughout the system to let you ask those questions in a non-risk sensitive area. You could ask an AI all sorts of questions. That doesn't mean the AI is making the actual decision. But by putting it alongside of our products, allows you to get some insights, play with some of the tools as we perfect the data sets. So we're getting ready to roll out our new chatbots here at Experience coming up pretty soon. Our new Prism Asset stuff is coming around the corner. And then data OCR, looking at documents, all sorts of changes. So we're really excited about doing that and kind of trying to bring the mortgage industry into the next generation.
Awesome. Well, this has been quite informative, a lot of fun. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. This has been great.